Hi everyone, I'm Visura Padeniya. I used to debate for Ananda College and then Elizabeth Moyer School. And currently I'm the coach of Royal College and Lyceum Vatal International Schools. Today I'm going to do a breakdown on the finals motion for the DS Impromptu Debating Tournament. So the motion reads, This House prefers a world in which Lucifer did not bring knowledge to humans at the cost of exiting the Garden of Eden. So, reading this motion now, there is somewhat of a biblical context, but this motion ultimately boils down to whether the acquisition of knowledge has led to a greater benefit of humankind or whether it has actually led to the downfall and actually it's a basically harms versus benefits type debate. So, considering this, then I'll move on straight to prop and what prop's world or birds or argumentation should ideally look like. I'll just give a brief breakdown. So, for prop, it comes down to the question of morality, and this I think applies to both prop and op. It's whether humans are actually capable of grasping epistemic responsibility, whether the acquisition of knowledge is actually good for humans under the guise that they are capable of navigating the complexities and coming to terms and actually benefiting each other off of it. So that is the ultimate question. And then props were looks as if where the acquisition of knowledge has actually led to greater harms over any benefit op can mechanize to them. So the I've put all the potential ideas into one chunky argument. So hope that's fine with everyone here. So the idea is that knowledge does not equate to freedom, and this is broken down into multiple subsections of analysis. So the first level is on the premise itself on how we acquired knowledge and how that itself is the premise to why this is not a world in which we prefer, because the premise itself is flawed. And what is this premise? This premise is to claim that knowledge was given to humans in a coercive element. That is to say that there was no proper rational framework in which when Eden was offered this, not Eden, my bad, when Eve was offered the apple by the serpent, she was tempted. That means that there was no proper reasoning as to what the consequences were going to be, no foresight of what the consequences are going to be, or no proper safety net in the instance where she actually opted into eating the fruit. That means then that the fall of humans was a very disproportionate harm because Eve did not even consent to the consequences in the first place. She was merely tempted and she had no understanding. That means then that the premise itself is flawed. That is why then humans are coerced into, so basically you can equate then all the harms and basically all the violence humans face, all the oppression humans face, every sin or every better word to phrase is every act of violence we inflict upon ourselves or inflict upon each other is a direct consequence of this, and we do not consent to this. That is why we do not prefer this world. Then secondly comes to then how we apply this knowledge and how this application of knowledge is actually making us lose agency over ourselves. This is a very counterintuitive argument to sort of pre-flip what op can claim, to claim on any argument on agency op can claim. So what does this idea look like? So this idea looks like basically to say that knowledge benefits us insofar as it actually is equally accessible, and also that it is not an extension of pride. So when you say these two claims, it is intuitive to say that knowledge is not equally accessible and knowledge was actually taken as an extension of pride, because Eve ate the apple, claimed that she is better than God. Why does she claim that she is better than God? Because she disobeyed God's command. So then the premise itself for those two are set on an intuitive basis. Then let's move on to the idea of it not being equally accessible. Why is that? Knowledge functionally is hoarded on privilege. This comes down to whether you are born intelligent or whether you have access to greater educational systems directly is proportionate to how you perceive knowledge, how you access knowledge, and then all the choices you make in life. This means then that every other person who does not have the ultimate access to knowledge compared to everyone else is at a direct disadvantage. That means then that every educational divide, every misinformation people are fed, every manipulation you can get from, I don't know, a televangelist or anyone, comes at a consequence of knowledge being a disproportionate source which is accessible to people in disproportionate ways. This means then is that knowledge does not benefit us equally, but why is that uniquely harmful for this world? That is because when it is disproportionately accessible is when leaders or is when people in positions of privilege can actually use that as an extension to their power. That is the point at which they can manipulate others and keep themselves in power. That is when politicians have the capacity to lie, to skew statistics, to win elections, to rig elections, because they have access to knowledge other people do not. That is when people can manipulate you and tell you that you can go to heaven if you follow, like if you apply to my course, for instance, or something. Where those premises only exist when there is this disproportionate access to knowledge. Then the other thing is why it is an extension of pride. Because we apply knowledge in a way where we have disobeyed God in the first place. That means then is that every application of knowledge comes on two premises. It is one, to either accentuate your greed, or two, it is to suppress your guilt and shame. I think both can actually be taken as one there. So that means then is that when humans navigate the complexities of knowledge itself, the conclusions we've come so far in history have actually been counter to us. We have basically been shooting ourselves in the foot when we have been navigating the complexities of knowledge. We are capable of feeling guilt and shame. These are things which we feel, which we go through, which basically give us a negative utility overall. And not only that, because we've navigated it in a way which benefits us, because ultimate human instinct, mind you, is to make sure that you serve yourself. So because you are serving yourself on this functionality of greed and pride, this means that then you are willing to hurt another person, step over another person to achieve that. That means that is the point at which you call war upon another country, in which you colonize another country, in which you even enslave other human beings for your benefit. That is one. But the other also comes in the form of ignorance. When you have access to certain knowledge itself, you can cherry pick and choose what you want to believe in or what you want to believe in the moment. These are merely observations in which humans use knowledge right now. It's not just the fact, because if humans were able to actually perceive a knowledge to see that, oh shoot, something bad is happening, and still choose not to intervene, means that humans also have a capacity to use knowledge only at points in which it benefits them. That means then if knowledge is ultimately to serve your own selfish needs over a common good overall, that means knowledge itself as an overall net has not helped humanity. So that conclusion itself then comes into play. Then thirdly and finally is the perception of freedom and agency, which is the whole counterintuitive flip to anything Hop can say regarding on how we are trying to achieve dignity for ourselves, we are trying to achieve agency for ourselves by pursuing knowledge. This is to say that what we try and call peace right now is to accumulate more resources for ourselves. What we call freedom right now is to make that we have a sense of dignity as a human being. Considering that then, what was the Garden of Eden? And then you frame that to the adjudication panel. To say that the Garden of Eden had all the resources you need. There was no reason to hoard things. We hoarded things because then we started feeling greed. We started feeling these emotions which kind of made us want to hoard things, want to fight against each other for things. And that is the point at which we started to lose our humanity and lose the the paradise or sanctuary we actually needed. But we already had it in the first place. It just happens that we, as a consequence of taking a bite from the apple, we've lost it. So because of that, then this idea now then comes to the conclusion that we've come towards eternal damnation where history itself repeats itself. This is again a counterintuitive flip to anything Hop can say that, okay, humans are actually striving for progress. You can say no, because history repeats itself. War is happening. Even right now, you can see an upsurge in far right far-right propaganda. You can see an upsurge in fascism, even though it hasn't been that long since World War II. These repetitive cycles constantly show us that this is an eternal cycle in which we are trapped inside, that we have put ourselves under, in which we cannot escape. This is a disproportionate amount of harm you place upon humans. This is why we do not prefer this world. That is Prop's case. One more thing. So for Prop, then the other final thing is to say that what did we ultimately lose as a consequence? We lost the divine construct we had with God, and we are constantly in a battle to reclaim it, but we cannot. This is to say that our relationship is not a navigation of moral complexity with God, but rather a punitive one. What I mean by that is that we try to get closer with God through direct communion or different forms of scriptures, or trying to attend churches and whatnot. The reason with which we do this is because we want to achieve this salvation, this paradise in which Eden was already prescribed to us for. We try to then reclaim what we lost, which would have not been there in the first place, where we would not had to have suffered this damn consequence in the first place in that guise. Where even if Prop is to claim that there is this, pursuit in struggle, and which is so great and so profound, and they run this whole philosophical meta line, you can claim that what joy in struggle, or what joy in the acquisition of knowledge does a starving child in Gaza have, who is sniped right now by an IDF soldier? There is no proper claim to say that now this person is actually having a profound moment. That is a whole meta idea which you cannot apply in individual circumstances. Individually, all of us are suffering and want and way out of it. And some ultimately do not get the way out of it, or even most do not. Most do not find the ultimate satisfaction they want. Like, everyone is perpetuating on a hedonic treadmill, asking for more and more. And because you can never truly be satiated, and only even if you, as a ballpark, if you actually want to claim that people do, it is absolute minute that people are capable of doing that. That is why Ops world, or which is status quo, is infeasible compared to what Eden could have been. Then we move on to Op. So Op, I think, feels a bit more straightforward, at least to me, because it's the whole matrix line which you have to run. It's that we value what is real. So I would also then put Ops case into, let's say, one chunky idea, and then just take each level as a potential idea. So one is to claim stagnation. So this is to analyze the human condition, and again, considering what I said as counterintuitive flips on Prop, I'm trying to now reclaim that in Op. So don't be confused saying that, okay, I said this, that Prop can respond to this. Any idea can be responded to. It's just this idea can be analyzed further, in which makes it harder to respond to. So this first idea then. So this is to claim that stagnation isn't fulfilling to the human condition. So it's that the idea at core is that Eve was ultimately tempted to by the apple. That, okay, sure, in whatever coercion Prop can fiat, it is still that Eve felt a need to do it under the right circumstances. It is not that humans were completely incapable of making that choice. There was capacity for that choice, which is then established. What does that mean then? It means that then it is our nature to strive towards things and strive to want things. So that is why then that the ultimate sacrifice you made by having this fall down is still not a net harm. It is only a characterization in which Prop tries to paint it as a harm. What I mean by that is, on a second level, is to clarify on what the meaning of our existence ultimately comes. It's a whole philosophical tangent, but it can be proved. This is to say that then firstly is the whole intuitive line. You achieve true good, or like good is ultimately more meaningful when there is bad, and that you navigate the complexity which Prop claimed, which I claim, is to say that then that now you are navigating it in a better way. There are people who do that. This is to say that then is that in the struggle we have achieved certain things in which we would have never achieved at all. This is to say that then we would have been shells of what our lives could have been. Sure, there is ultimate struggle, but again, this is a holistic motion in which you argue humanity as whole. Sure, sure, you can claim that babies die on birth or infants die on birth, but as a net, humans exist, humans strive, and humans live. And then we put a better framing as to what living means overall. That the infant who had no experience of living itself is an equation, can be equated to how Adam and Eve feel in the Garden of Eden. That there is no lived experience for them to assert what their lives are or what their lives' meanings ultimately come down to. This is to say that there is pleasure in existing, because you can classify that the seven deadly sins are ultimate evils, or that it is sin, that it is bad to greed, it is bad to want things, it is bad to strive towards things, it is bad to feel pride in yourself. But ultimately, anyone, or it is intuitive to assert that there is a joy or inherent pleasure in asserting your pride, in wanting things and ultimately getting it, and then wanting more. There is, humans have always been, then because of the because we were capable of being tempted, means that we have always wanted things regardless. That even in the Garden of Eden, you might have wanted this, but you have never been able to achieve it. In the context of status quo, we have. And that is the unique framing in which Op can actually bring the debate onto their side. Because humans ultimately have been navigating these complexities to greater utility overall. We have achieved science, we have achieved massive massive advancements in the medical fields and just any field overall. And sure, regardless of the means on which, because Prop can claim that the means don't justify the ends, you can still say that ultimately we are at a consequence of the end, and this is a very holistic debate in which you classify humanity overall in a time span. And considering that, then we have achieved so much through art, we have achieved so much through science, that it has ultimately brought us more joy, and it is also more fulfilling because we have achieved this in our own agency. Because humans ultimately, in the tree of knowledge, we were given the capacity to feel things which give us the agency or give us the foundation to achieve more knowledge. That the conclusions we come about our existence, about the universe overall, come because we are constantly in pursuit. This is not to claim that we have become omniscient the moment we had a bite from that apple. We are still in pursuit of knowledge overall. It's just that now we have a greater need to pursue it because we know what knowledge is. Because if it was so repulsive to humans, then humans would have not wanted to achieve it in the first place. The fact that we can debate about this and actually have arguments even in the pursuit of knowledge itself means that we can ultimately come to better conclusions overall over time. And that is better in ops paradigm, because then there is more leeway or more room to discuss, and there is greater potency on a better outcome. So then the final thing is this idea of a theological flip. Say that the fall was meant to happen because we are meant to seek salvation, we are meant to experience the resurrection, and experience redemption overall. So this is then the framing for a potential op case, and that was the potential of prop case. Then the ultimate clashes come down to, I think, the way I established the burden. Are humans actually capable of grasping epistemic responsibility? What are the complexities of that? And then you create clashes around that. And then what does true freedom mean? Have we actually gotten further from God, or have we actually, I don't know, gotten by in the pursuit of trying, have we actually created a greater affinity towards God, where we are trying to transcend and trying to overcome our own mistakes, and how that has created a greater appreciation towards our kind itself. And then the idea of what true meaning is it to have ultimate resources, have ultimate freedoms, or is it to live in the pursuit of gaining more and more, and is that satisfactory? So that is my breakdown for this motion. Thanks for everyone if you have come so far into listening the entire like the entirety of my rant. Thank you so much. See you all.